Back in the early 90s, one band didn't just sell millions of records, they became the actual voice of a generation. But that kind of fame, well, it forces a choice. Do you play the game, or do you burn the whole thing down just to stay true to what you believe in? This is the story of Pearl Jam, and the very real price they paid to keep it real.
So let's just jump right into that because it's a huge question, right? It gets to the heart of what we want from our artists. Is it just about the music, or is it about the tough calls they make when the spotlight is blinding and there's a mountain of money on the table?
And look, that is not an exaggeration. At the absolute peak of their powers, they took a hard look at the music industry, decided it was fundamentally unfair, and they declared war on a corporate giant. This was a fight everyone told them they had absolutely no chance of winning. Now, to really get why they felt they had to fight this battle, you have to understand who they were. We're not talking about just another rock band. These guys were a cultural earthquake that started right in the rainy streets of Seattle. You know, they weren't just in the scene, they were architects of it. Along with bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden, they created this raw, emotional, just brutally honest sound. And it was a sound that spoke directly to a generation that felt completely misunderstood and left behind. And that voice, oh, it resonated. Big time. We are talking about 85 million albums sold across the globe. Their first album, 10, became this massive cultural touchstone. It sold over 13 million copies in the US alone. I mean, it's one of the records that literally defines the entire decade. For a while there, they were the biggest band in the world. Period. So how did they even get together? It's a pretty wild story. It was almost an accident. After the tragic end of their band Mother Love Bone, the founding members just sent out this instrumental demo tape. Somehow, it made its way to this young surfer in San Diego named Eddie Vedder. He records his own vocals over it, pops the tape in the mail, and sends it back to Seattle. The band was basically formed before they'd even met the guy in person. But all that huge, sudden success, it came with a serious hidden cost. The same scene that celebrated them for being real and authentic suddenly started whispering, had they sold out? And that created this insane pressure on them to prove their integrity. And this brings us to this really important idea, economic authenticity. See, it wasn't enough to just sound authentic anymore. People were skeptical. They wanted to know if you were in it for the art, for the fans, or were you just in it for the money? And that criticism, it came from the very top. I mean, this quote from Kurt Cobain, their biggest peer, their biggest rival, it just shows you how intense that scrutiny was. In the world of 90s grunge, being called corporate was the absolute worst insult you could throw at somebody, and the bands took that charge very, very seriously. So their reaction was to just pull back. They completely stopped playing the game. No more big, flashy music videos on MTV. Almost no interviews, no magazine covers. They decided to let the albums, and more than anything, their live shows do all the talking. This was their first real stand for authenticity. Okay, so that retreat from the press, that was just the opening act. The real war, what the LA Times actually called a holy war, was about to kick off. And this is where they decided to put their entire career on the line. The band saw what was happening. Ticket prices were going up, service fees were getting ridiculous, and their real fans were getting priced out. So they set this simple but totally radical goal. Keep every single ticket under $20. And that included all the fees. It was a mission that put them on a direct collision course with the biggest name in ticketing, Ticketmaster. So, in May of '94, they made it official. They filed a formal complaint with the Department of Justice claiming Ticketmaster was a monopoly that was jacking up prices. Then they tried to tour completely on their own, finding weird venues, college gyms, you name it. It was a logistical nightmare. And after years of struggling, by 1998, they were just exhausted, and they were kind of forced to go back to using Ticketmaster venues. And this chart, this really shows you what they were up against. Just look at this thing. This was part of their complaint. You've got the band, the talent, over on one side. You've got the promoter, the venue, the ticket company, all connected. And then way, way down at the very bottom, almost like an afterthought, that's where you find the fans. They were fighting an entire system that was built to serve itself, not the people buying the tickets. So, in the end, their legal case just fizzled out because of a technicality. The law basically said that Pearl Jam and their fans weren't Ticketmaster's actual customers, the promoters and the venues were. It was this crazy legal loophole that just shut their whole case down, even though in the court of public opinion, pretty much everyone was on their side.
The war with Ticketmaster might have ended in a courtroom, but that whole experience, it changed the band for good. It turned them from being just a rock band into being real, dedicated activists. This quote from Eddie Vedder just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the reality of that DIY tour. I mean, instead of being musicians, they were forced to become concert promoters. All their creative energy was going into logistics, not into the music. It was just completely draining. And Vedder was honest about it. The fight took a real toll. He said that getting crushed by a corporate giant like that cost them some of their idealism. But here's the thing. While they may have lost that one battle, it just hardened their resolve, and it focused their activism into all these other social and political causes for years and years to come. So, why are we still talking about a legal fight from the 90s that they technically lost? Because that fight, that willingness to go down for what they believed in, that became the absolute foundation of their entire legacy. And to really see the payoff, you have to look at their bond with their fans. Take their biggest song, Alive. For Eddie Vedder, that song came from a place of real trauma. It was about discovering this huge, dark family secret. For him, the line, "I'm still alive," was meant to be a curse, like this heavy weight he had to carry.
But then, something incredible started to happen. Night after night, Vedder would look out and see this sea of faces screaming that line back at him. But they weren't screaming a curse. They were screaming a celebration of life. The audience, the very people he had fought so hard for, they literally changed the song's meaning for him. And in his own words, they lifted the curse. And that is the whole point. Their fight wasn't just about ticket prices. It was them sending a crystal clear signal to their audience. We are on your side. We will fight for you. And that one act forged this incredible bond of trust and loyalty that's lasted for over 30 years. It's why they have one of the most passionate fan bases in the history of music. Which really leaves us with one last thought for today. In an era where everything is measured by algorithms, by streams, by social media metrics, the Pearl Jam story makes us ask a really important question. What is the real, lasting value of authenticity? And more importantly, who's willing to pay the price for it today?